長りく最高の支配者とお前たちが呼ぶ存在だ。伊達ではないことを教えてやる。我が名を知るがよ。我こそがアインズールゴウン。盗撮だ。
シャルティア・ブラッドホール、一方的に楽しませてくんなまし。
アイン様、もう我慢しなくても良いですよね。アイン様に無礼を働いた者には全てことごとく死になさい。
互いの能力を知り連携が取れた。俺の勝ち点の時間ほどだ。では始めるぞ。
やりですね。そろそろ終わりにしんしょうか。
Oh boy, this is what you've been waiting for, isn't it, Frontier?
I have 65,000 crystals ready to go.
Yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly compared to other collabs this game has done, but it's finally here.
Yep.
Although at the same time, one interesting thing is that I've heard a lot of people are planning on skipping the banner for this collab.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of an odd patch. The patch we got last month, Florentia and Tsubame, actually moved a lot of the content that was supposed to be for this Overlord collab patch over there instead. So this time we're getting a patch that actually has a little bit less content, although it's it's still pretty standard stuff. Anyway, it's finally here. Let's talk about it. And this is kind of interesting because on the Chinese server, I actually use the Overlord characters as my core team. I have a 6-star. I have a 6-star for all 3 of these characters, so I can
nice.
I can talk a little bit about my personal experience using them as well. So let's just start with our freebie here, who is Ainz. So first, we got some very good news, which I'm sure many of you have already seen, which is that Ainz is getting his spooky skeleton face for when we are getting him, which is really, really surprising. Because, because when this patch made it over to the Taiwan server, he still had the mask on, so people were just like, oh, okay, I guess he's just gonna have a mask on all servers. But then Taiwan got a patch relatively recently, where they took the mask off, and now Ainz has his spooky skeleton face, and that is what we're getting.
Spooky scary skeleton, shivers on my spine.
I'm not entirely sure why this didn't happen until now, but I guess maybe like either they did it for global, which is pretty cool, or maybe they did it for the Japanese server, which is like 2 or 3 months behind us, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
I think my understanding is that the mask, like there's a story reason for him to be wearing it.
Well, it's in the anime. He was hiding his face because no one knows he's he's a skeleton. And like, oh, it's just some buff dude. And it's like, I'm actually a lich, and everyone goes, and then they die.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about Ainz as a unit in this game. I mean, we talked about this with Bakaira a couple months ago.
Yep.
I have gotten Ainz to 6 stars since then on my Chinese account. So my overall impression of Ainz is that he's, like, as far as the freebie goes, he's pretty good. The issue always with sharding characters like this that we get for free is the opportunity cost. Unless you just really like Ainz, then you can shard Ainz, and I don't think you'll be disappointed in what you get, because I think Ainz is solid, like, mage/demon unit, and he has a spread of single target and AoE moves. The biggest problem I find with him is that his soldier choice, if you decide to go single target damage with him, is that his soldier choice is kind of lackluster.
Okay.
On the Chinese server right now, the account I'm using, I usually go with wizards on him.
Oh, you said wizards, right? I thought you said lizards, and I was like, how the heck does he have lizards?
He actually also does have lizards. He has the lizard men.
He does. Oh my, the meme.
I don't know why they gave him the lizard men. Like, that is probably the oddest choice out of all the soldiers. I don't know if that's something that happened in anime. Did he ever control lizards or anything?
Technically speaking, yes. It's
Okay,
season 3. He takes the control of a clan of lizards.
Okay, there you go. There's like an actual reason they gave him a lizards then.
Oh, I did not think that. Wow, that's amazing.
But yeah, aside from that, he's got the Hellfire Archers and the Spider Demons. Like, those are fine. Like, they have their usual problem of being demon soldiers, which is like a little bit more situational. And finally, he has Undead Knights, which are actually quite good for him because he actually has 35% defense on his soldier boost, so he can actually get really, really tanky with those skeleton knights if you really want to. Overall, like, Ainz, I think last time we said a lot of what needed to be said. He has a mix of single target and AoE spells. As far as AoE goes, he's got Black Hole, He's got his own special spells called Fallen Down, which is just effective damage against flyers, and then he has his 3-cost skill, which is an AoE. I think his 3-cost AoE is actually very interesting because it can strip buffs. What it does is that, like, when you cast it, it strips 2 buffs and converts them into debuffs, which is actually very, very useful because, buff stripping is going to become more and more important, and being able to do that in AoE is pretty powerful. The downside, of course, is that Ainz cannot clock this skill. So this 3-cost that Ainz has is the first skill I believe we're getting, which is a selection skill, which is where you click on it and then it opens like a separate menu where you can choose 3 different effects.
Yeah.
So for Ainz, the 3 different effects, like 2 of them are just buffs. Like 2 of them, one of them increases his HP, one of them allows him to fly and give him move +1, and the final one is the one that does AoE. So the 2 buffs actually set the cooldown to 0 turns. So you can just, like, with the 3 costs, like, what you do is that you can just spend the first 2 turns buffing him up if you want to do that.
Okay.
The AoE has a cooldown of 3 turns, which is, shorter than the typical, like, this is like a black hole size AoE. So it's, like, usually those are 5-turn cooldowns. This one's 3 turns, so that's kind of nice.
That's nice.
But usually people, like, prefer going with clock on these sorts of skills just to be annoying. But you can't do that with Ainz. You're going to have to wait the 3 turns. Of course, you can still clock Black Hole or Fallen Down if you want to. But yeah, that's his capability in AoE. Nothing super special or anything, but he's fine at AoE. Like, there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing special about him in terms of AoE. Aside from the buff stripping, of course, like I said. The buff stripping is quite nice. And when you take his single target set, it's sort of the same idea. Like, he's got some generic skills like Lightning Strike. He's got Dark Reaper, which of course is always a really good spell. And then he has his own special spell called Reality Slash, which allows him to attack first. Of course, has a number of uses. Being able to attack first, like, if you kill the enemy, then they won't retaliate at all. So
exactly.
And of course, like, sometimes the problem with attacking into Landius or something is that he'll counter and do a lot of damage to you before you finish your attack, in which case that lowers your attack. But that's not a problem with Reality Slash. Of course, the thing is like, these days, like, a lot of people just use the ranged staff to avoid that. If you really, really want to hit like a Cav Landius with Ainz, you probably would just use like a ranged staff and give him Lightning Strike or something.
Oh, yeah.
But even with that, like, Reality Slash is still a pretty interesting spell, I think. Like, it's got a couple uses. Like, it's like I said, this is sort of the theme of Ainz, whereas, like, his skills they're pretty good, but there's nothing, like, crazy about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, like, I want to note something about this 1-cost skill he has called Body of Effulgent Barrel.
Oh, yes, this one.
When we were talking about this skill with Bakira, like, he said, like, this is very interesting because it's very threatening to, like, if an assassin wants to come in and kill him, then they have to be thinking about, okay, I have a 30% chance to just straight up fail completely. So the thing about this skill is that if you look at this skill very closely, you'll notice that this is not a shield skill like Heavy Shield or like a Bloodline Armor or Aelless Armor or anything like that. This is a debuff skill. This skill says that when he is attacked, it has a 30% chance to reduce the enemy's damage by 90%. So that's different from giving himself a shield that reduces damage.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so when you're talking about trying to survive an assassin like Zerida, if Zerida is using her Bloodthirster set, that means she is immune to debuffs. And that means this will not work on her.
Okay.
So
we figured that out after the other servers noted.
Yeah, so this is still, like, it seems very powerful, and it still is pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's still a pretty good skill, but it does, like, it is not, like, as insanely OP as it might look at first.
Okay.
As for my own experience using Ainz, he's been pretty good in PvE, and, like, I took him into PvP a couple times, and, like, he's pretty much exactly what I thought he would be. He's fine. If I was super obsessed with climbing the ladder quickly or whatever, then I would probably shard someone else instead.
Okay.
But, if you are a fan of Overlord and you want to play with Ainz, you're not going to be disappointed. I think he's a good character. That's pretty much my take on him.
Yeah, I might, because he's the free one, and I probably won't shard him up. I'll just get him to whatever he has a free star.
That's the big downside here, is that he's given to us for 3 stars, and you gotta have to shard him up all the way to 6 stars, if you really want him to be at max power. And of course, being that he is an SSR character given to us instead of an SR character...
Oh, okay.
That's actually a downside in some ways, because the SR characters like Parn, if you shard them, when you're sharding SR characters, there's actually like a 30 or 40% chance or something like that that every time you sweep a Gate of Fate stage, you'll get 2 shards instead of 1.
Ah,
So that does not happen with Ainz because Ainz is an SSR character.
dang. So they could have gone on the Parn route where he's a 4-star or the SR and then he comes an SSR.
I mean, they could have done that, but honestly, like when Parn becomes an SSR, like nothing actually changes about him other than the fact that he has a shiny SSR symbol.
Okay.
He doesn't get the extra 5% soldier boost, which Ainz does have. Ainz has the 100% soldier boost total, and he has stats that are more comparable to an SSR, I think. So that's the advantage of him being an SSR. He has like they gave him like the SSR stats and the SSR soldier boosts. If you're looking to sweep him, you're in for a long road ahead. You're gonna have to sweep him 3 months basically.
Yeah.
If there's like a new player to this game coming in here just because I like Overlord, let's check out.
I mean,
this
yeah, definitely
game.
because AFK Arena had their own Overlord thing. So if you see all those ads and go, "Hey, I want Overlord," and then you see Wikigrisser has Overlord, come on down, we'll love you.
And you know, like they have already given us the new like newbie banner.
Yeah.
And my recommendation to those new players is to definitely go for Bozel on that. You should pull for like if you go for all the Overlord characters, these 3 are like clearly they're dark faction characters, so you should pull for Bozel on the newbie banner. I mean, it might be a little bit tough to get all 3 of them to get Shalltear, Albedo, and Bozel, but you know, gotta pray. This game's pity system has like when you first start out, I believe like it forces an SSR at I believe it was 40 pulls.
Yeah.
And then after that it's 70. Then after 70 pulls after that, you'll get another SSR, and then 100 pulls after that. After that it starts the 100 pull pity thing.
Okay.
So for a newbie, if you're just looking to get Albedo, Shalltear, and Bozel, I think like it's not the worst like odds in the universe, especially if you progress quickly through the story and stuff.
Yeah.
You'll get plenty of crystals, but yeah, like it.
Okay.
I mean, the newbie banner is kind of important. Like you kind of want to get Tiaris and Bozel, if you can, off of that. But but the problem, of course, is that Overlord is a limited time banner. So if you're here just for Overlord, focus on getting characters you like. That's the way to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got any thoughts on Ainz here?
No, I'll just look forward to him because he's the leader, dude.
I guess we can talk about Albedo next. Albedo is the character that kind of got the most play out of these 3 Overlord characters on the Chinese server. I guess I'll talk a little bit about why some people are saying they're going to skip the Overlord banner. If you are like really into the metagame or you play a lot of Apex, you are probably looking at getting Albedo at some point, but a lot of people now are like, I'm not interested in Albedo anymore. The main reason for that is, of course, Hilda. Hilda. So like 2 months ago or whatever, Hilda came out. And she, in many ways, she can fill a lot of the same things that Albedo did in your box, but she has way more team support than Albedo does. So if you are a big Dark Faction player, I think you might want to look into getting Albedo. She's really the only like good tank for Dark Faction.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say, because I would need that tank.
Albedo is kind of an interesting mix between, I'd say, Ledin and Vargas, probably. That's probably the best way to describe her. First off, she has a passive guard in her talent. Estelle has a talent guard, but it's only for 1 block around her. For Albedo, it is 1 ring around her, which is pretty crazy. Because a lot of times in Apex, like, what happens is that like you realize your guard's about to go down, and then you have to make a plus sign with your units, with the 5 units. But a lot of times, if your opponent is wise up to that, then you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna like try to stop him from being able to do that, and then kill one of his units that is outside guard. Albedo, of course, pretty much like makes that not a concern at all. If you have a ring where you can stay safe in, then that's a lot easier to position with. I mean, so that alone is very powerful. But like beyond that, she has every time she has an ally within 2 blocks, she has damage taken minus 25% at 6 stars, which is pretty crazy. Like when she first came out, I was just like, what is this? Like because Layden is the only other character that has like very balanced damage reduction, and his damage reduction is 15%. So Albedo is like just straight up better at Layden at tanking. Actually, there was one other character that actually does have an all-around damage reduction when in battle, and that's Emmerich. Emmerich, I believe, has 20% damage reduction, but Emmerich has his own set of problems. I mean, this is pretty much Albedo's thing. Albedo is the ultimate single target tank. She is so tanky against single target. to the point where, like, if you are using a single target strategy, if you like using Sonya, if you like using Toguro, if you like using, Clarett, Ares, single target, any type of single target box, and you use Imelda on top of that, you need to ban Albedo first. She is so tanky and so much RNG when you are fighting her. So the reason for that is, of course, her 3-cost skill, Hermes Trismegistus. I mean, it's this on top of some other skills she has, but first let's talk about the 3-cost, because first off, this 3-cost gives her revive, which, like, pretty standard on tanks at this point. Like, almost every tank has a revive now.
Yeah.
She's immune to stun from the passive on this, so that means, like, you can't sleep her unless you passive block her first, which is just a lot of trouble. So Bozel isn't as effective at stopping Albedo being able to tank for her team. And then, of course, finally she has the guard skill itself in this 3-cost. Not only does it reduce the chance of her being crit, which is very useful already, but it gives her a shield effect like the Bloodline shield, but it's not just for melee, it's actually for all range. It's 30% chance to reduce any damage by 50% when she's being attacked.
That's wow.
Like, so it's just like so anytime you attack her when her Hermes Trismegistus is up, it's like you have a 30% chance basically to fail completely. Like especially, like, it's pretty funny, like when you see like if she's using, like, say, Phalanx, and then she activates her 3-cost like shield, you combine, like, the Phalanx damage reduction with this damage reduction. Like, a physical attack is just like you do like 10 damage to the Phalanx. it's just really funny. So that's why any single target team needs to get rid of Albedo, and it's not even a question, because, like, Albedo, like, even if you are confident in your tank bust and you think you have a way to break past Albedo, you're still really rolling the dice when you're fighting Albedo, because you're just sitting there trying to hit her, and you're hoping that her 3-cost shield doesn't activate. You're hoping she did not also bring block, so she could do all kinds of things to annoy the crap out of single target damage dealers. So this is why, like, on the Chinese server, when you saw someone bringing single target tank busting teams, Albedo was the first ban. And finally, the 3-cost skill, worth noting that it cannot be dispelled. So, you can't even like sword soul her or something and then hope it goes away, because it's not gonna go away. I mean, you could dispel her 2-block guard, but you cannot dispel the shield effect. So, like if you're playing single target, get rid of Albedo. You really don't want to deal with this. But of course, Albedo is very, very similar to Leyden in how she plays in a lot of ways. She does not have the movement block or, like, the movement lock that Leyden has, which is probably her, like, the biggest difference between Leyden and Albedo at this point. But Albedo is just just a solid rock, really hard to break past her. But of course, the obvious counter to this is to just cast AoEs on her and her team. She can't really do anything to that. Even Landius is better at handling AoE than she is, because Landius's range damage aura is actually does apply to AoEs, so he reduces AoE damage for people around him. And, like, Landius's 3-cost also increases healing to your team members. So if you have Albedo as your tank and then your opponent brings AoE, you're kind of boned there. Like, so that's Albedo's big weakness. Like, it's what you expect.
Okay.
Even in single target damage, some people think, like, she's kind of weak to magic, and she is to a degree. Like, I mean, her magic defense is kind of low. She does have the 25% damage reduction, and her most common magic tanking soldier is Crystal Molder. Like, Knight of Mystery can't even kill Betty if she has the Crystal Molders out front. And Albedo actually does have the Empress guards. Like, these are actually really, really good. I mean, at first I thought they looked kind of lame, because, like, I kind of had this impression, like, don't they just die to unicorns? But they actually have enough magic damage reduction so that they can... Sometimes they will just survive unicorns regardless. So they're still pretty good choice. Although you would probably build them as, like, the final thing to build if you were just building all of Albedo's soldiers.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, Albedo's got a nice mix of soldiers. She's got Phalanx, which, of course, always good. Guardian Infantry, pretty good. Stone Colossus, pretty good. Crystal Golems, good. And Empress Guards, pretty good. So, Albedo's kind of has it all for single target tanking. And of course, for PvE, she just does not die to any single target hits. Like, I mean, magic can hurt her kind of bad sometimes, but usually she is just really, really tanky.
Okay.
And of course, like, much like Leyden, she can counter for a lot of damage. Instead of countering twice, she will have defense conversion into attack. So just kind of like Vargas, she can get really, really high attack if you stack her defense. And then she does increase damage dealt by 75% at 6 stars, which is a lot. I should note that this 75% damage dealt increase does not apply to her soldiers for some reason. This is like a really, really weird exception out of all the characters, like, because usually talents apply, like, most of the time talents apply to the entire unit, but this is one of those weird exceptions that just happened to be the case. Like, they did not allow her damage dealt on counter to be applied to soldiers for some reason.
They might have done testing and seeing that it might have been a little bit too broken.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not like Phalanx is well known for their damage anyway, so I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, much like Layden does in PvE, a lot of times, you know, if enemies are just charging at you, Albedo's just gonna, like, kill them one after the other because she has a ton of attack and she increases damage dealt when countering. The big downside here, of course, is the fact that she's an infantry. So, if you're fighting a bunch of cavalry, usually Albedo doesn't die to cavalry because she's so tanky anyway, but, like, her counters will not do that much damage to them, which is a bummer, but, you know, that's just how it is. I mean, you can go with Demon Albedo if you really want to, but usually, like, my recommendation with Demon classes is usually, like, you only switch to Demon when you feel like there is, like, just no concern about holy units whatsoever. But switching classes in this game, like, it's not super expensive, but it can add up over time if you're doing it all the time. So
yeah,
it's probably best to just stick Albedo in an infantry class and accept that you're not going to kill calves most of the time.
Yeah. Hilda be like,
Hilda is really good at tanking melee hits, but Albedo can tank, like, everything. And, like, her 3-cost skill, of course, has a shield effect on any attack, that single target. Hilda often has to pick and choose between if she wants to be more tanky against melee and more tanky against ranged and that sort of thing. So Hilda's not as good as, like, stopping a tank buster as Albedo is, but Hilda has a faction buff. Hilda can change her class. Hilda, you know, usually can attack for more damage than Albedo can. I mean, Albedo does have the 1 attack skill, but, you know, that's on kind of a long cooldown unless you get lots of debuffs, which you probably don't want to do anyway. So yeah, so overall, like, that's why a lot of people lost their interest in Albedo. I think we're still going to see plenty of Albedos from Wales and stuff, but I can understand.
I think we're going to see Albedos for a while until Hilda, you know, is in global.
Even after Hilda comes out, Albedo will still have her place because she is still, like, a pretty hard counter against any sort of single target box. Free-to-play players, guppies, even dolphins, like, you probably have a lot of other characters you want to shard, so I understand why some people are like, Albedo's nice, but, you know, I have other things to work on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try to get her. I mean, I'm hopefully, you know, 6,000. But yeah, I do want her because I want just all of her factions. I need a tank, so I definitely, out of her and Shalltear, I want her more.
Oh yeah, since you brought up her factions, I guess I'll bring up one final note about her in PvE. Right now, it's not the case, but of course, later on, they're going to add the Tensei faction into Sleipnir. So Albedo is going to become, like, an insanely good tank for Sleipnir.
That's my worst one, so I definitely need her.
So she does have that going for her, and she can use, Spirit Boots without really any penalty. In Sleipnir, you can use her Dark Desire attack to sort of deal damage and then run away, but of course the problem is that Dark Desire is on kind of a long cooldown.
Okay.
And that's Albedo. So finally, the third unit we're getting this patch is indeed Shalltear. So I do have a 6-star Shalltear on my Chinese account right now. So I guess I'll give my hot take here, which is that Shalltear is not that good. Well, she's not bad. She's, like, okay.
Holy Vampire.
She's, like, okay. My biggest problem with Shalltear is absolutely the fact that her talent requires her to be at 100% HP for her attack boost.
Yeah, because single AoE or chip damage.
I just feel like that's way too restrictive. Like, the move +2, I understand why that's at 100% HP. It's basically to make her better at zoning in PvP, like, or, you know, early game when you haven't engaged yet. It gives her, like, a really huge threat range. I've recently played with Shalltear a little bit in the Chinese Apex. I was just screwing around a little bit, and the movement she got really helped me pressure my opponent. But yeah, it's like, the fact that her attack goes down as soon as she gets dinked by anything is just, like, it's just really lame, because it's like, the attack boost isn't even that big of a boost. It's 20%, which is, like, kind of standard. Like, I kind of figured when you give someone a boost that only works at 100%, it should be, like, a huge boost. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because like typically in games like this, it's like, okay, you know, this works all the time, but it's a smaller boost. But this other boost works only a certain amount of time, but it gives a really big boost.
Yeah.
Kind of like sorceresses versus wizards. But it's like with Shalltear, it's like it's attack plus 20%, 100% life, and to me that's nice, but not crazy. She has a physical shield, so during her first attack, probably gonna take very, very little damage in retaliation, unless it's like a Yulia or something. Obviously, any damage she takes, she'll heal back because of her talent. She also has like other ways of healing herself, like she has regenerate, she has vampire bats if you really want it.
The vampire has vampire bats. Wow.
Yeah, and it's like we don't get that many Lancer DPSs, honestly. Like we have Elwyn, we have Brenda, and now we have Shalltear. That's basically it as far as like big Lancer DPS goes. Elwyn is like basically never used anymore. I think the main person Shalltear is competing against is Brenda, and in my opinion, Brenda is just better than Shalltear in almost every situation. I mean, Brenda has strike, so she's really not that much worse than Shalltear at approaching the enemy. And Shalltear's like soldier choice really isn't anything special either. Shalltear's most common choices are going to be, well, for now, are going to be like Amazon Champion, Gargoyle, and possibly Undead Knight if you think like there's not going to be any terrain obstructing you.
Yeah.
Now, the good news here is that Shalltear actually got 3 of the new soldiers that have been coming out for the 3rd year of the game. The first one of these is the Lancer Prostate Lancers. That is actually a very interesting choice for Shalltear, because you can run Shalltear as a demon and then use the Protostate Lancers to attack without having the demon weakness.
Oh.
So that's an interesting aspect, but
I will think about that because I definitely like her demon form more.
Her demon class is overall better in terms of stats and stuff, but obviously, you know, it's a demon that has its problems. Also, her demon class can't wear Apex boots. I think you do want Apex boots on her to make sure she has as big of a striking range as possible.
I recently just got one, so...
Yeah. In terms of like that actual build, my thoughts on that are kind of like, sure, you can do that, but it's like, why go for that build when you can build any other kind of unit that has neutral damage against all enemy types? Because Shalltear has a demon with those soldiers to make it so that she does like neutral damage to everything. It's just kind of like, okay, sure, she can do a lot of damage, but like a demon Shalltear will still die to like a holy AoE from like Shelfanil or Lambda or you know what have you.
Yeah. So
to me, it's just kind of it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting choice, but I just don't see the point of it. So the other soldier she got is the Dragon Master soldier. The Dragon Master soldier actually works decently for her because it requires you to move 5 blocks before doing full damage with it. But because Shalltear, of course, has the inbuilt movement plus, it's not too hard for her to get that movement. Gargoyle was before her only flyer option that dealt damage. I mean, she has vampires, of course, but vampires don't have an attack boost. Dragon Masters are fine, you know. And then finally, she has the werewolves, which are actually really good. The werewolves, of course, are demon soldiers, but that's not as big of a problem as having Shalltear herself be a demon, because you can switch out soldiers whenever you want. Not only do they have a lot of attack and they have pretty good defense, they have a ton of HP, so they're pretty tanky. They restore HP after battle, so like, you know, they sort of help with sustain ability a little bit. And right, the werewolves can move through forests, as we've mentioned in the past. So the werewolves are pretty much just better than undead knights, pretty much. Like, so, you know, all 3 of these soldiers have their use on her, so it's nice that they gave Shalltear all these new options in terms of soldiers, even after she's been out for a while. Doesn't really fix the fundamental problem with Shalltear, which is that as soon as she takes any sort of chip damage, her attack just, like, plummets.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as far as her, like, actual attack skills go, the Impure Shockwave Shield that does 1 random undispellable debuff, it more or less has the same debuff pool as the Broken Spear skill from Night of Mystery. It does heal block, it does buff block, it can do Moby down, all that stuff. I think usually you are going to bring her 3-cost skill plus her Purifying Javelin attack.
Okay.
My problem with Purifying Javelin is that even though it does dispel 2 buffs, which is pretty nice, and it's a Javelin attack, which of course is always good because extra range and all that, the big problem is that this inflicts Curse of Wounding after battle. It's not before battle. So comparing this, once again, compare Shalltear with Brenda. Brenda has Ashglow Strike, which also does Curse of Wounding, but that applies before battle.
And it's kind of weird that they did that to Shalltear, but not to... Sorry, like, Brenda has the before, but Shalltear has the after.
I think the reason they did that is because, for a couple of reasons. First off, Purifying Javelin is a 2-range attack, so it has longer range. It has 3 cooldown instead of 5, so it's a pretty fast cooldown attack.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And this dispels 2 buffs, so it has a lot of things going for it on top of the Curse of Wounding. But of course, the great thing about Brenda's Curse of Wounding, Ashgrove Strike, is that, you know, if you attack someone with the Wheeler talent, they're going to hurt themselves before you even attack them, which is very powerful. So Ashgrove Strike is much better than this, I would say. Like, because in PvP, usually you bring the high cooldown, like instant.
Yeah, because you're not going to survive enough turns, so, you know, use it again.
So pretty much, to me, like, the advantage of Purifying Javelin isn't really the Curse of Wounding, it's the range plus the Dispel. That's what makes it good.
Okay.
The Curse of Wounding is just a bonus, like, it's just like whatever. Like, and the Curse of Wounding on it is actually really weak. It's a 10% effect, which is like, that's lame. And finally, we have her 3-cost skill, Spweet Lance, or I'm not entirely sure how to say this.
Spwit.
I believe this is the name of her weapon from the show. It's like a weird spear with like poison inside or something. I've seen pictures of it. It's a very odd weapon that she's holding.
Yep, the Spwit Lance is a divine class item used by her.
Ah, gotcha.
It sucks blood out and then gives her it back. So her whole sting of restoring HP back from damage, that's her lance.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. So this skill is kind of interesting. Like, okay, so it first off, it does a lot of damage, which of course is nice. 1.7 times damage, and then it does heal block for 2 turns and cannot be dispelled. It also does this weird thing where it's like, it also does this unique debuff called Blood Curse, where that unit, when they end their turn, they will take fixed damage and then heal your party for that amount of HP. It's kind of an interesting effect, but I don't think it's that useful. So if I'm fighting against a Bracer tank or something, that means this skill is very similar to Yusuke's 3-cost skill, which of course ends up giving her the same issue that Yusuke has. Because right now Yusuke has a lot of problems sometimes, which is where like he can't really break through tanks, but he can't really he can't heal block them either because everybody's bringing like ways to deal with that. But if the opponent is using a Blood Pact tank, then they won't be heal blocked, but you can try to Blood Curse them from the skill, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the Blood Curse is to make it so that Shalltear has sort of a roundabout way of healing your party. But because I think Shalltear is modeled more as a rush character, I don't feel like this is going to be useful practically a good majority of the time. Yeah, that's pretty much my take on Shalltear's 3-cost skill. I mean, this also gives her immunity to Curse of Wounding and Heal Reverse, which is nice, but it's just like if you're bringing Shalltear, like, Listel really wasn't your concern, I think.
Yeah.
It's nice to have, but it's like, whatever. So, finally, I think one of the skills that a lot of people were looking at when Shalltear first came out is her Blood Frenzy passive skill. So, this skill allows her to act again after you have attacked twice. So, like I said, I've already played around with Shalltear a little bit. There have been a couple cases where the Blood Frenzy allowed me to kind of run wild and kill some enemy units. But overall, like, I just feel like, especially after Brenda's 3-cost skill comes out, she is going to be, like, a lot better at doing this than Shalltear is. I mean, it's a good passive, but it's just, like, my overall point here is that I feel like she is outclassed by Brenda in most of the things that she can do. And that's really my problem with Shalltear. And, like, Shalltear, of course, like I said, her talent, 100% HP requirement, very, very unflexible. Now, it is true that Brenda's talent is also, like, sometimes kind of inflexible because Brenda's talent says you have to attack someone with lower HP than yourself. So she's also screwed over by mirror armor and that sort of thing sometimes. But, like, it's not nearly as restrictive as requiring 100% HP.
Yeah.
Shalltear, I think it is slightly easier for Shalltear to get a faction buff over Brenda sometimes, but... Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't... And the thing is like, Shalltear does not boost her own attack like Brenda can. Brenda has Strike, so she can boost her own attack if you really, really need to, but Shalltear cannot do that.
Yeah, I'll probably won't build her, just keep her whatever stars she has. Because I would start building Brenda more because like her her exclusive equipment and the other stuff she can do and whatnot.
Yeah. I would say Brenda, like, versus Shalltear when you're fighting Jormungandr for Ancient Beckoning. That's the main Ancient Beckoning fight that Brenda would be brought for. I would say that Shalltear ends up playing very similar to Brenda there, but the difference is that Brenda's talent will, like, almost always be active versus Jormungandr, whereas Shalltear, like, might have a lot of trouble keeping her HP at 100%.
I was about to say, if you can't get the heals up, then she's gonna suffer.
Yeah, that's the big problem. I mean, I think Shalltear would be just fine in Jormungandr. She's probably pretty good there, and she's probably even useful in Fenrir if you really want to bring her there. But yeah, it's like, eh. So despite like the kind of loss of excitement, I guess, over the Overlord characters, I think I'm still going to pull a little bit. I'm going to see if I can try to get them because I do like getting the characters if I can. And I know, of course, that you are like definitely going to go for Albedo. That's right.
Yes, I'm going to go for both of them.
All right.
So, but I'll probably try to go for like a 4-star Albedo, like off the bat. I mean, I have like 65,000 crystals. Like, what else am I going to do with them at this point in time?
Not a bad choice. Like, I mean, Albedo. Like, a lot of people say that Albedo is outdated now, but I don't completely agree with that. But I can understand why some people want to skip them if they have other priorities.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's talk about these new 3-cost skills now. So 3-cost skills, as is usually the case with 3 new characters, we're getting 2 3-cost skills instead of 3. First, we got Clarett's 3-cost skill. So this skill is basically a super roar. It's just like a better roar. So I know a lot of people, like a lot of Clarett fans, were kind of disappointed with this at first, but I think this is actually a really good 3-cost. Yes, if you're just going to use this after Lightning Flash, this is pretty much just roar with like a couple bonuses attached on top after it's done being used. I mean, it does do the buff block and passive skill disable on the opponent. So if you fail to kill Landius or something, at least you disabled his passives and you can try to follow up and kill him after that, because he has buff block and passive block, and which cannot be dispelled, and both of which are devastating to pretty much all the tanks, honestly. Like, it's devastating to both like Landius and Juggler and almost any other tank, because buff block is usually a huge pain in the ass because you cannot get your guard back up and that sort of thing. I feel like the second value of this skill is to use it as a backup attack. If you feel like you're going to fail your initial Lightning Flash attack, you can just run away afterwards and then save this attack for later in the match when you're closer and you're getting into a slugfest.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what makes this 3-cost skill so good. It's not that it makes Clarett better at what she already did. She's pretty much the same in terms of like the long-range tank killing ability, but what this does is that it offers her new options later in the match if you feel like her Thunder Flash rush did not work.
Yeah. Can't really say anything else.
Yeah, I understand why some people were kind of wishing that they gave her like some kind of OP skill, but to me it's like Clarett is still really good. I mean, Clarett saw very little play in the Season 6 meta for a number of reasons, and that's mostly because like some of the power creep in tanks and stuff that makes it harder for Clarett to do her job. But I think, at least for the moment, especially like right now we just entered the top 16 for Apex Season 5 for Global, I think we're going to see, like this weekend, I think we're going to see some like Clarett 3-cost flying around. Like I think it's a pretty good skill.
Okay, I'll keep it loaded.
So next we got Hiei. Oh my god. Well, I mean, I just hate dealing with Hiei in general, but basically,
the boy.
Like, this skill just combines his 2 skills together. He has the Curse of Wounding attack, and he has the Guard Piercing attack. So basically, what this 3-cost skill does is that it allows you to have both of them in the same skill, essentially. So basically, if Hiei is transformed into his Dark Dragon form, then this 3-cost skill can passively inflict the Curse of Wounding, only if he crits. But, you know, usually Hiei has okay crit rate.
Yeah,
and then, like, of course, and then it has the active portion, which is basically the same as his Guard Pierce he already had, which is Sword of Darkness Flame. Basically, it just makes it so that Hiei does not have to choose between the Sword of Darkness Flame and his Fist of Mortal Flame skills. It used to be that, like, if you brought those 2, you could not bring Backstab, but now you can bring Backstab, plus 3-cost, plus Transform. You know, not a whole lot to say here, to be honest. Like, it's pretty much this. Like, Hiei's pretty much still doing the same thing. It's just that he's better at it now.
Yep.
And of course, because like the Curse of Wounding aspect of this is a passive, that means his guard pierce will also inflict the curse of wounding. So that actually has a number of very annoying applications you can do. Of course, like, you know, even if you pierce guard and you fail to kill something, you're still gonna curse them, and like, you know, if you have a follow-up AoE or something, like, your opponent's gonna have a bad time.
Yep.
Yeah, not a whole lot to say here. I think like it just makes Hiei better, makes Hiei better.
Okay, I'll definitely get it.
So finally, we got these new exclusive equipment. We of course have Vargas's, which is stupid. Vargas's is like, okay, so Vargas's just says if he has power stab up, his guard skill up, he can range counter at 2 range. I said this last time, and I don't think my opinion has changed. I think this is a really dumb exclusive for him, because first off, it's fine in PvE, like it's okay in PvE, but it's like in PvP, it's like, okay, here's the thing. If I'm fighting an assassin, they're gonna pierce guard anyway, so it's not doing anything. People don't use archers in PvE or PvP, except for Illustrial, who pierces guard, so this is not gonna do anything against her. If I am fighting a magic opponent, Vargas cannot guard against magic, and even if they attack Vargas himself, like, Vargas is like just melts the magic. So I do not see the function in giving Vargas a ranged counter. Like, I mean, it will reduce the damage he takes from a mage for sure. Like, he'll counter for some damage, but to me, it's like,
Why?
yeah, that sums it up pretty well. But you know, that is not what people have been waiting for. What people have been waiting for is, of course, this Akka weapon.
Yes.
This
Give me.
Yeah, I mean, this has been discussed so thoroughly in the community that I don't really know what I can really add here. I mean, it is just a really good weapon. First off, it's just a good weapon in general because it gives her both attack and intelligence, which is what she wants. And then it gives her a free wolf spirit at the start of battle, which of course immediately allows her to do a couple of things. It can allow you to do her super sprint ability, which of course allows for some rush strategies. You can teleport somebody for a rush strategy, or like, and when this wolf dies, like, since it's 75% of her stats, when it dies, she adds 15% or like 20% of this wolf's stats to herself. Basically, this weapon turns her talent into plus 15% to all stats for free.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't think I have a whole lot to say here that hasn't already been said. Like, it just makes her a very, very powerful rush character. Like, possibly even like a first pick sometimes, depending on what kind of box you're running. I think it's going to be interesting seeing like how Akka is being played over the next couple months, because like in Season 6 of China, like, because tanks and healers are a little bit more powerful now, we did not see as many gung-ho rush teams as we did in Season 5. What was it, like Werner and Akka both didn't see like a ton of play. We saw a little bit of both of them in the Chinese Season 6 playoffs and stuff, but they didn't get a ton of play. So I'm kind of wondering like about the longevity of this weapon. I think it's because like rush strategies are usually like very, very risky and very volatile, and that's why like a lot of the big whales don't like going for it. I don't think that's an indication that Akka becomes bad or anything. I think it will still be a perfectly viable strategy to rush with either Werner or Akka or some other like movement boosting unit.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what Akka players have been waiting for. I expect to see lots of Akkas in early Season 6, so bring it on.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So, have you been training Akka at all, Frontier?
Yes, I have. I've been sharding her up. I just got her to 4-star today.
All right.
I still haven't been able to get the ticket thing from her fifth one, because you're supposed to have only her in the battle, so hopefully this will let me get that wolf spirit before, so I can start doing shenanigans.
All right. Yeah, this is a really good weapon. Akka fans will be very happy. It is worth noting that Akka still does not have her 3-cost skill, so that's another thing to look forward to if Akka ever started having trouble again.
Okay.
Okay, so finally we got like let's talk a little bit about the content they're adding. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, they moved a ton of the stuff that was supposed to come out this month to the Florentia month instead. So first, of course, we have the Overlord collab event. The Overlord collab event starts like this week. It actually starts the same week as the banner. So unlike most Secret Realm events, they decided to run the Overlord collab event the first week of the patch cycle instead of the second week, which is a good change in my opinion, because it never made sense to me that they would do that, like that they would delay the the event to the week after. Like, that never made any sense to me. They're going to be doing that going forward for any sort of collab event, as far as I can tell, because it was the same for the Wataru collab. The Wataru collab also ran the first week of the patch cycle instead of the second.
Do you have any pictures of what we can earn from the collab?
It's another one of those stupid events where you need to get 3 different items. So bring out that spreadsheet. Okay, so what we got here is that, of course, we were getting Ainz shards from this. It gives Wheel of Fate, Red Ore, some SSR items, SSR equipment. Most notably is like the Wheels of Fate. It gives 18 Wheels of Fate, I believe. So that's nice. Like, not much to say there. It's free. Free Wheels of Fate is always nice.
There's an Ainz skin. I completely forgot about that.
Oh, right. There's the Ainz gets like his
armor
Black
skin
Knight,
when he's a warrior for the guild or whatever it was.
Yeah. For the Black Knight skin is from the event, and then like the Albedo and Shalltear are going to have Echo of Light skins. Albedo has her black armor for her Echo of Light, and Shalltear has like her battle armor, the red battle armor that she wears. It's kind of funny because I think a lot of people actually prefer their normal outfits over their Echo of Light in this particular case.
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on what you like. Like, if you like your characters looking battle ready in their armor and everything, then it's like the Echo of Lights might appeal to you a little bit more. But yeah, it's like, but if you want them to look waifu, then you gotta keep the vanilla skin. I believe it's the 4th week of this patch cycle, although I don't know if they're gonna shift it around. The auto chess mode is gonna return, and
oh no,
that's we talked about it with Nitro when he was on the show with us, and
yeah.
I know Nitro was not very happy about that. As I said back then, the auto chess mode, they really did not fix the big problems with it being kind of grindy. The biggest problem, of course, is that they did not fix the problem that you needed to kill a certain number of enemy heroes, which obviously was a problem because as soon as sometimes when people lost their tower, they would just quit because they were like, okay, I'm losing. I'm just gonna move on to the next game. So I believe the auto chess mode this time only lasts for 2 weeks instead of 3. What I find kind of odd is that these are the only 2 events that I have heard that they're doing this month. So we have the Overlord collab event and we have this Magic Towers Conquest event. I have no idea if they are going to be doing some kind of Christmas event. I kind of figured they would be, but so far I have not heard them say anything like that. It's kind of an empty month when you get down to it, and that's because like I said, they moved a lot of the content that was supposed to be this month over to last month. But I actually still haven't progressed the story. I haven't beaten the story yet because I've been kind of busy. So I guess that gives me some time to catch up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I got today. Like, there's like not a whole lot has actually changed about these characters since we last talked about them, because I think their kits were relatively straightforward as to what they do. The only thing that has really changed is the meta around them.
I mean, I'm just happy that we're actually having a collab with, Overlord. I look forward to the characters, even if they eventually get overshadowed by other people.
I mean, Albedo is still the best at what she does, actually, which is stopping single target attacks. It's just that she does not have utility. She doesn't have a lot of utility outside of that, and that's the problem. And Shalltear, even though I was kind of crapping on Shalltear just now, she's still fine. I don't think she's terrible or anything. She's still good, sure. It's just I see no reason to raise her over Brenda or something.
Yeah.
But aside from that, if you are new to Wikigrisser, or if you are newer to the game, and you are thinking of building your team around Overlord, I would say, in my experience, these 3 Overlord characters are probably the most PvE friendly collab characters that we've gotten so far. They've been pretty solid for PvE for me. And then there's also a Destiny banner in the 4th week that includes Bolzol, Luna, and Liana. So, it's a good month if you want to build a Dark Faction core.
Okay, yeah. Nope, that's about it. I definitely will look forward to the Dark Faction bonuses, because need more variety so I can...
And speaking of Dark Faction, we are planning on talking about the recent Chinese patch soon. We'll be talking about that very soon, and that is yet another buff to the Dark Faction. We'll be talking about Vincent and Kruger next time, but
oh yes,
gonna have to wait until next time for that, and we'll see you guys then.
Okay, see ya.